The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed as soon as is practicable following the meeting. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing this meeting from remote locations or the Council chamber in the Civic offices Bridgend. Please, could everyone ensure that mobile phones are switched off or on silent mode? Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda, and officers will be asked to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their cameras on at that point. But with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times you should keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimize any background noise and interference and to ensure the connection remains as stable as possible. If any members and officers wish to raise a point or question, they should press the hands up icon on the screen at the top right-hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in the order of the requests received. Please lower your hand once you have finished speaking. The chat button has been disabled for this meeting. If you are attending the Council chamber, please speak directly into the desk mic in order to ensure you are heard clearly by all those attending. Please do not use a microphone until you have been invited by the chairperson to do so. Officers from the Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting, and where necessary will mute those not being used. Officers will be asked to introduce themselves as and when they speak. As when they are invited to speak during the course of the meeting, they too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. We'll now proceed to the agenda, and I will read out the agenda items in turn. So can I begin by asking for apologies for absence? Okay, there are no apologies. Declarations of interest. I wish to receive any declarations of personal and prejudicial interest, if any, from members or officers in accordance with the provision of the Members' Code of Conduct adopted by the Council on the 1st of September 2008. Are there any declarations of interest? Oh, okay.
Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to declare a personal interest in item 4 because I am married to one of the group leaders.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Williams. We'll go on to agenda item 3, the approval of the minutes. So we need to receive and approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of September 2022. Is anybody be able to tell us that they were a correct record of that meeting? Councillor Williams.
Chair, I propose.
Thank you very much. Can anybody second that?
Chair, I'm prepared to second.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. So minutes approved. Item 4, standards of conduct. Please note that the 3 political group leaders of Bridgend Borough Council have been invited to attend the meeting for this item. So, Kelly, can I ask you, please?
Thank you, Chair. As stated, the purpose of this item is to present to the committee the report of the 3 political group leaders of the Council, outlining their compliance with the duties in relation to maintaining standards of conduct. Members will recall that on the 30th of September 2022, you received a report on the new duties placed upon standards committees and political group leaders under the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021. You'll note that the group leaders we have in the authority are Labour Group Leader Councillor Hugh David, Bridgend County Independence Group Leader Councillor Amanda Williams, Democratic Alliance Group Leader Councillor Ross Penhale-Thomas. Chair, I'm pleased to say the 3 group leaders are here today. They've submitted a written report, and we'll now call the group leaders to introduce their reports, and then they can be asked questions by the committee.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, who's going to be first, please?
Chair, shall we go in the order they appended to the report. So the first one, we've got Appendix 1, Councillor Amanda Williams.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me at this meeting today. How much of an introduction to my report would you like me to give?
As much as you think would help us.
Right, okay. So the report is split into 3 sections. In my report, and I'll just pull it up on the screen, the first item we were asked to address was demonstrating personal commitment to and attending relevant development of training around equalities and standards, encouraging group members to attend relevant development or training around equalities and standards, and ensuring nominees to a committee have received the recommended training for that committee. I'm pleased to say that all members have received the required training for any committees. They also go on as much training as possible throughout the first year. Now, what I've had this year is a large number of my group are new members, and so they've had to go on all of the training so that they can get up to speed with the running of the council. So where they haven't been able to attend in person, they have watched back the recordings of those training sessions if they haven't been able to attend for work commitments. I'm really pleased with the attendance records from my group. As I said in my report, as we are a new group, I'm a returning councillor, but most of the group are new councillors. There's been an awful lot of eagerness to get out there and to make changes and to do things quickly. And so I found that I've had to remind the group that they may need to go a bit slower. The only things I've looked at some emails and I've said, maybe you want to reword things if you've been too excited to get things done. We have had a lot of trouble with online trolling, and I put that in the report. It has been difficult, and I think every group leader can agree that the way of the world these days with online, people are there able to attack, and it's been very difficult, but I believe that we've made vast progress in trying to prevent my group members from biting back and staying away and not getting involved in any of these Facebook arguments, which it has been a vast improvement. And I believe that, I'm very proud of my group. We have a fantastic working relationship, and I also have a great relationship with the other 2 group leaders. We meet regularly and we try and stamp out any issues as they come along.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to ask Councillor Williams? You've done a good job, Councillor Williams. Not one question. Sorry, I can see. Yes, Gavin. Come in. Yes, Gavin.
Sorry, just one question for me. I guess with the relation to new members joining and some of the issues you've raised, is there anything that they think the Standards Committee could do to help with new members?
From my perspective, I think it would probably assist if they had a better understanding of the Standards Committee, because whilst they do the Code of Conduct training and it does mention the Standards Committee, they don't have any actual real life experience of it. So I think maybe a briefing or something that could highlight exactly what you do and the purpose of it, so that if ever they were called, hopefully they wouldn't be, but if ever they were called in front of yourselves, they would know. But I think it extends on from the Code of Conduct training and gives it a more in-depth overview of what you do and how they should behave. But other than that, I think at the moment we have such a good team around us who provide such a large amount of training, and we're doing the PDRs at the moment with the group, and they are coming to me, and we haven't finished them all yet, but all my group are doing PDRs, and they are putting forward their requirements and what they would like some training in. So it might be that some of them do raise something in relation to your committee.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I see Councillor Walters is hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Williams, for the report. It made for interesting reading, and you've obviously put a lot of thought into it. In the first section, where you talk about some of the, shall we say, social media related issues, if I recall, as I read it, you've mentioned that this has sort of calmed down as the years progressed. Is that right?
Unfortunately, the attacks against us haven't calmed down, but my group's retaliation has totally calmed down, and nobody has retaliated at all or engaged in any of this online tit for tat.
Yeah. So thank you. And it's obviously very concerning. Is there any one thing that you think could or should be done by the authority, by group leaders, or indeed by this committee that might assist the situation? Thank you.
I've asked for meetings with the police because I feel sometimes some of these comments go over and above what we should be expecting. I'll give you an example. I've had comments online with regards to saying my husband is away, so I'm home alone with 3 children, or they've had a look through my dining room window and this is what's in my dining room. I have 3 children. That's my priority, is to safeguard my children. And I felt a little bit let down with, and I've had other group members who've had similar things where I felt let down, not by the local authority, but by the police's willingness to get involved. They say, oh no, as a politician, you should expect all of this. Yes, if somebody wants to say, I don't like you, you're rubbish, you haven't put enough referrals in, you haven't done this or that, that's fine. But as soon as it becomes personal and involves my family, I think that there should be something. And we had a meeting yesterday in group leaders, and it was agreed the chief executive had said he'd already spoken to the police and there was going to be a briefing for members over what is reportable, what the bar is, and how we can work together and be supported by the police.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you've experienced that, and that sounds like a positive meeting yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walters.
I can just come in one. Thank you, Chair. Councillor Williams, I've just picked up your issue with the Standards Committee and a briefing to members. We are bringing the annual report to Council in July. So what I'll do is I'll pad out that report a bit to put some of this detail in to give councillors a better understanding.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Councillor Williams. Don't see anybody else wishing to speak, so can I say thank you very much, Councillor Williams, for your contribution this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, the next person I think is Councillor Ross Penhill Thomas. Morning,
yeah,
Councillor.
thanks. Morning, Chair. Thanks very much, Diolch, and thank you very much to the committee for the opportunity to present the report this morning. Arguably, with 8 members, the smallest group in the authority, I have the easiest job of all group leaders, but that could be arguable. There are out of my group, there are 50% of us who are returning and 50% of us who are brand new members to the authority. So that makes actually for quite a nice balance within the group of experience and fresh energy and enthusiasm. I have one amendment to my report. There's an asterisk on the number of members trained on the Code of Conduct. I'm informed by internal records that member has completed Code of Conduct training within the last couple of weeks. So that 100% is from within this term of council. As mentioned by Amanda, very collegiate relationship across the group leaders. We meet regularly to discuss both operational and strategic issues, which are always very helpful and reported back to group. So we meet regularly. I am very pleased from my report, Chair, to mention that fortunately no member of my group has been the subject of any complaint, whether informal, formal or otherwise. The report is as set out, Chair. Any questions I'm very happy to take.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Ross Thomas? Peniel Thomas, sorry. Don't see any hands raised yet. You've done a very good job, Councillor. Nobody got any questions. But thanks very much for your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. A boring report by all other standards. Thank you.
You keep the boring reports coming in. Right. And then next we've got Councillor Hugh David, the leader of the Labour group.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to join you here today and to be able to present my report and answer any questions that members have. Like Councillor Williams, most of my group are also new members. The majority of my group are new members, and they share that enthusiasm and energy. And of course, sometimes new members are finding their feet, aren't they, and aren't always aware of all the rules, but my new members have attended all the training and member development sessions required of them, and I think that has equipped them with those skills. As Councillor Williams and Councillor Peniel Thomas has described, I've got a very constructive and open and I believe positive relationship with the other group leaders, and I think we try and all lead by example and show civility and respect. And I think that's very important as leaders, that we lead by example. As Councillor Williams reported, I did raise in the meeting yesterday that I have a regular meeting I have with the Police and Crime Commission that was attended by the Assistant Chief Constable and the local superintendent, the issue of attacks on group members, because what I would say is that the activity that Councillor Williams has referred to is not activity by members upon other members, and I think that's important to recognise, isn't it? It's by members of the public, and of course, whilst the Standards Committee has a very important and powerful role in terms of the conduct of members, it does not have a role, and we have, as an authority, very limited role in terms of the actions of members of the public, and that's why I raised it yesterday with the police, and what we'll be looking to do is having a briefing that all members can attend, so they can understand better what are effectively the thresholds at which and the bar that is set by the police, and when the police will act and when the police will not act. And we'd probably all want the level of threshold to be possibly different, and it's a really difficult balance to strike, isn't it, in an open, free, democratic society, but also a society where we want to protect people, and there is a line that cannot be crossed. So that meeting, we did ask for that meeting to be organised, that briefing to be organised over the summer, if possible, because obviously there are concerns from members. And then finally, I have reported to you that there are 2 complaints that I'm aware of that have been made to the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales. Obviously, I can't go into the details of those, but I can confirm that with one of them, there was no action as a result of that, and there was no case to be found against the member against which the complaint was made. And as you know, you'll appreciate, I can't go into details, but I wanted to reassure you of that, because I am aware that I've got those 2, and I will, of course, in my annual report next year, advise you the outcome of the other complaint, which I'm obviously waiting to hear about.
Thank you, Councillor
Chair.
David. Does anybody have any questions of Councillor David? I see Gavin, you have your hand raised, and Graham. So Gavin first.
Okay, firstly, thank you for the report. I get my question is around the complaint, as you said. So I see that the complaint was from a councillor. Was there any informal resolution? Was there any informal resolution before, or was it just directly reported to the Public Service Ombudsman?
There was some engagement before, and then that complaint was escalated by the complainant. But as I reported earlier, certainly the Ombudsman did not find that there was indeed a case.
Okay, thank you, Gavin. Councillor Walter.
Thanks, Chair. Just thinking about what you said about the potential briefing in August. Could you just outline what you think, what topics that briefing will cover, and whether it might include support and guidance that the authority might be able to offer individual members around personal safety and security and home protection, as opposed to some of the courses that we've attended over the last few months, which talk more about when you're out and about carrying out your duties? Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Walter. We are looking at that. I know from email correspondence, and I'm sure the monitoring officer can confirm, we are currently exploring the options available to us and bringing in specialists that can talk about those practical measures you can take, because there's obviously a role, isn't there? And this is quite a broad subject, actually, in terms of what action can be taken, because some of it is preventative, some of it is about reassurance, isn't it? But that is something we're looking, and Chair, I don't know if it's possible to bring the monitoring officer to provide further detail on that at this stage, with your permission, Chair.
Yes.
Thank
Kelly
you.
will speak now.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Walter, the briefing that's being organised now is with South Wales Police. So they are going to target specifically what their thresholds are for intervention if things are reported to them. As well as that, the Democratic Services Committee have a report going in September, I think, about personal safety of members and what support we can put in. We're already liaising with the police about the opportunity to put markers, they're called police markers, on members' houses if needed. So we are working with the police to get that arranged where necessary. But I want just to reassure members that if individual members have issues and they contact us, we do put in safety measures, and we have got members currently who've approached us, and we've individually done the risk assessments and dealt with that appropriately.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions to ask? Councillor Williams, Martin Williams, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I put my camera on, but I think it's playing up, I'm afraid. It was regard, I don't know if you can see me or not. Bad luck if you can, I'm afraid. But no, with regard to the briefing, would it be possible? Well, I think one of my concerns, and a concern that I do hear discussed by my colleagues, is quite often there can be a continued I would say harassment, let's not call it that, but a continued pattern of yeah, let's call it harassment, for want of a better word, from individuals or members of the public towards certain members, that each instance in themselves may not trigger a threshold for a criminal investigation or similar. And there's a sense that if you report those to the police, then it's dismissed as being below that threshold, or as Councillor Williams said, you know, you're required to have a thicker skin. But I have been aware of some of these which have tipped over into what I would call a continued pattern of harassment, not just at election times, but have continued long afterwards. Could the briefing include some guidance or clarity, the briefing with the police, some guidance on clarity of what to do in this situation, which seems to me similar to the sort of stalking legislation that came in perhaps a decade ago, where a pattern of low-level interactions can actually amount to something more sinister?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Obviously, the police are prepared in the briefing. We will certainly contact them and ask them to cover that scenario. And I'm sure they'll welcome questions from members and be able to respond to that query themselves. As you know, the police have got thresholds for different things, and they are the only ones who can advise really on what course of actions would amount, in their view, to something that warrants further investigation from them. But we'll certainly raise it with them and get them to pick it up in the briefing.
Yes, Councillor David.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Williams, for that question. So I asked that yesterday because I said it would be really helpful for members to understand with some examples, because no doubt there's cases where it's very much black and white, isn't it? You know, that doesn't meet the threshold. That definitely does, and it's, you know, something you need to report straight away, and the police will act swiftly. And then there'll be areas of grey, if you like. But understanding that would be really helpful to members. And also, yes, because Councillor Amanda Williams, as the group leader yesterday, raised that point, because I think it's a good point from Councillor M. Williams about the pattern, isn't it? The repeated pattern, because sometimes that obviously it is different, isn't it, to a isolated incident. And of course, unfortunately, South Wales Police have a lot of experience of this, as every police authority does in the country, because we certainly see for national political figures that there's a very high level of online abuse and hate targeted at members. And I suppose what is difficult is that just differentiating who are the online trolls. And by the way, I don't in any way condone that, and I think it is, and I think it's undermining free speech in this country. Action, I think it's quite corrosive, and differentiating between that and then where there's a real risk of danger, and where it becomes stalking and harassment, which is an offence, isn't it? And hopefully we'll have some light shed on that in the presentation, and what members need to do. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor David. Are there any more questions for the leaders? Yes, Gavin.
Sorry, Chair. Thank you. Last question for me, I guess, it was a similar question to I asked Councillor Williams at the start. Is there anything the committee can do to support things like new members when they join? So.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks to Councillor Thomas. Again, that's a really helpful question. And I wonder whether or not there can be a session just with the Standards Committee to meet members potentially. I think that can always be helpful, can't it? And maybe, you know, if members of the committee are able to make it to a face-to-face hybrid meeting, I think that is really helpful. You know, so having the discourse that the discussion we're having today is quite helpful to me, and I'm sure helpful to other group leaders. I'm not suggesting you have a meeting, but maybe it's what we call them member development sessions, and maybe it could be that all Standards Committee members are invited to that session, and you're able to meet and speak to individual members, because I think that will help both the members of the authority and the members of the Standards Committee as well. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. One of the reports we've got a little bit later on the agenda is the work of the Standards Committee, and one of the proposals there is that committee members start coming in and observing council meetings. So that may be a good opportunity, that if we can get you in before a full council meeting, and then you can meet all the members and then stay and observe the council meeting. I think that'd be good. And also just for information, for the group leaders, we have been interviewing for additional members for the Standards Committee, independent members, because we've got a couple of vacancies. So we conclude in that process today. And again, I'll be bringing a report to full council at the end of July, asking you to approve representatives to come onto the committee. So it'll be a good opportunity then for the new members to meet you.
Thank you, Kelly. Are there any more questions of any of the leaders? No, I don't see any. So can I say to the three leaders who've spoken this morning, thank you very much for your contributions. They were sensible and helpful, and the matters you have raised, I'm sure, will be taken on board. And it is rather sad when, because of the accessibility provided by social media, that people can sometimes go beyond the heightened emotions that politics can generate. And we've had, sadly, the death of two members of parliament because we didn't like their politics, and that's an awful, sad state of affairs. I think it needs to be addressed, and I'm glad to hear that the police will be involved and that the Standards Committee will be speaking to the police to set the thresholds of what you should be tolerating as councillors beyond the just rude words. Anyway, thank you all very much. Thank you to the three group leaders this morning for your contributions. Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Chair and standing committee members. Am I dismissed now?
Yes, you may leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I think we can now move on to item 5 on the agenda, and that's the annual report for the monitoring officer.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to present to the Standards Committee the annual report as drafted for 2022-23. Set out in paragraph 2 of your report is a summary of what the annual report must include, and we've set them out in bullet points. The draft annual report is attached to your packet Appendix 1 and is available on the website. And if it's approved today, it will be presented to full council at its July meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kelly. Do we need approval this morning, Kelly?
Yes, Chair. So if members can confirm that they're happy with the report as drafted, it's attached, and then confirm that they're happy for that to be taken to full council at the end of July, the middle of July.
Happy to move, Chair. I'm happy to move that we do.
All right, thank you very much. Is that all we need?
Move second.
Yeah. A seconder.
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Philip. Okay, so it's accepted. Thanks very much. Can take us on to item 6, and that's the independent review of the ethical standards framework. Again, Kelly, if you could take us through, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report is for committee to note the consultation on the independent review of the ethical standards framework, and this is known colloquially as the PEN review. In March 2021, the then Minister for Housing and Local Government commissioned an independent review for local government in Wales. The framework has remained largely unchanged over the last 20 years, so an independent review was felt important to maintain confidence in the system and ensure developments in the way councillors and their public lives are reflected in the operation. An effective ethical framework is essential to ensure people and councillors from all backgrounds have confidence to engage with local democracy or stand for elected office. The independent review was undertaken by Richard Penn, a former local authority chief executive and the former chair of the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales. The terms of the review were set out in your report at paragraph 2.3. The review concluded that the current framework is fit for purpose and works well in practice. It suggested a few amendments could lead to a greater emphasis in the framework on prevention of complaints, improving the handling of complaints, and resulting in already high ethical standards being further enhanced. Since the publication of the review back in July 2021, engagement has taken place with stakeholders, including monitoring officers, the Public Services Ombudsman for Wales, the Welsh Local Government Association and One Voice Wales. The review's recommendations were also discussed at the All Wales Standards Conference in February 2022, and a consultation paper was published in March 2023. Chair, I'd ask the committee to note the report and the consultation that's been ongoing. The outcome of the consultation will be reported to the committee when it's available. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kelly. Well, we're being asked to recommend the report. Is there anybody who wants to not recommend it? Okay, then the report is recommended, Kelly. And agenda item 7 is the National Forum for Standards Committee Chairs.
Me again, Chair.
Yes.
Yes, Chair. This is to update the committee on the establishment of a National Forum for Standards Committee Chairs. The Penn report, which you just discussed, commented on the variety of practice across Wales in how Standards Committee discharge their duties. Richard Penn acknowledged the positive work for the Forum of Chairs of Standards Committee in North and Mid Wales and recommended that an All Wales Forum be established along the same line to encourage consistency. All local authorities in Wales have agreed to create a national forum to share good practice, and draft terms of reference for the forum have been prepared and agreed by the Monitoring Officers Group for Wales, and they are at paragraph 3.2. Chair, the forum will give chairs the chance to share and agree to coordinate best practice, acting as a sounding board for ideas and create a support network for chairs and committees. Each standard committee will retain primacy, so the forum will not be able to make any binding decisions on behalf of local authorities. Chair, just for information, there was a forum last week which I attended. I found it was very helpful, and moving forward, it's hoped that the chair of this committee will be able to attend and contribute. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kelly. I must confess I haven't attended the, I think there have been 2 meetings of it.
Yeah.
I haven't attended either of them, and I'll explain to you later why that is. Again, we've been asked to recommend the report. So unless there's anybody who's not happy with it, can I say as the chairman, and we recommend the report, Kelly? Thank you. And agenda item 8 is the gifts and hospitalities. Again, Kelly, I'd ask you to speak on it, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report again stems from the Penn review, and it's to consider the harmonisation of gifts and hospitality thresholds to ensure consistency across Wales. Under our current Members' Code of Conduct, members are required to register the receipt of any gifts, hospitality or other benefits where the value of the item exceeds a threshold by the Council. In Bridgend, this threshold is currently £25. Monitoring officers across Wales were asked to seek views of their Standards Committee on whether a standard threshold should be voluntarily agreed by all Welsh local authorities, and if so, what that threshold would be. We've attached a table which shows that the average threshold is currently £25. Therefore, Chair, take it to the recommendation and ask the committee to agree that local authorities should voluntarily harmonise their thresholds, and to comment on whether you think £25 is the appropriate amount. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kelly. Can I ask the members of the committee, are you happy that £25 is an appropriate threshold? Nobody says, sorry, Councillor Water.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I support obviously the recommendation that we have consistency across Welsh local authorities. £25 is our existing policy and seems to be in the majority, so I would support that we recommend that be the threshold across all 22. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Water. Is anybody else? No. Okay, then we recommend that the threshold should be at £25 in line with, it seems, most other authorities. And the agenda item 9 is the observations of the Vale of Glamorgan Standards Committee, which Graham and I attended a while ago now, and we have Graham's report that we can look at. And are there any questions on the report? Any observations on the report? No?
Chair, if I can just come in.
Yes, Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. As you said, the report contains the observations from a Vale of Glamorgan meeting, which was pre-pandemic, so it was quite some time ago now. I think what the request is today is that obviously you note that report, but also decide whether you would like to observe any other BCBC or town and community councils within the borough, and if so, to nominate standards members. As we discussed a little bit earlier, we are recruiting new members, so whilst I'm happy to take nominations today, I think it would be only fair to allow those members to come on board, have a little induction, and then offer that opportunity to them as well. But part of what the group leaders discuss is they would like this committee to meet the BCBC members, so it may be an opportunity for those currently on the committee to perhaps come in when we have a full council to meet the members, and then to observe a council meeting if the committee are agreeable to that.
Thank you, Kelly. How do members feel about that? Gavin?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so yeah, I'm fully supportive of that idea. And it was, my question was going to be in the recommendation. The recommendation directly addresses independent members carrying out observations. I'd like to just query why it's only independent members and why not the full standards committee.
It could be open to the whole standards committee. I think the feeling is perhaps that BCBC members will be here anyway, so they observe the meetings, and perhaps the town and community councils are familiar with the setup of meetings and how they operate, but you are more than welcome to attend.
Philip?
Yeah, just want to echo what was being said, and I think it's clear from this morning's meeting that actually members of this be attending council meetings is an effective way to.
Thank you, Philip. Can I say that I found the visit that I made with Councillor Walter to be a very interesting meeting. I had also attended a meeting of a town council with another authority of which I was the chair of the standards committee. And again, that's interesting. Town councils and community councils are subject to codes and codes of conduct of the standards committee, not just the borough council. And it's good, I think, that we get out to see these councils, because they do sometimes have a heightened sense of debate in some of the meetings, which sometimes I think the presence of a member of the standards committee does help in dare I say it, standards of conduct at the meetings. And that in turn improves the standards at which those councils operate. So I think it's a good idea myself. Of course, it's up to the standards committee and the newer members, as Kelly has said, about how that's managed and how that's approached.
Chair, what I'll do is I'll send a calendar around with the dates when we have our full council meetings, and then members can let me know if there's any they want to attend that they're available for. What I'll also do is I'll contact the clerks of the town and community councils to get some dates from them. Obviously, they'll be quite numerous. Perhaps if I circulate that, members between you can sort of identify one or two that you'd be available to attend, and then we can make the arrangements for the town and community councils as well.
Thank you, Kelly. We come to item 10, urgent items. Are there any urgent items? No. And just one thing before we finish, this will be my last meeting as a member of the Standards Committee. I very reluctantly have had to tender my resignation to the monitoring officer. Circumstances which are now preventing me from giving or devoting the time that is needed for preparation and attendance. And my priorities, my priorities are lying somewhere else. So, but very reluctantly, I've had to resign from the Standards Committee and resign as the chairman. So I just wanted to let you know that. Graham.
Well, Chair Cliff, I'm sorry to hear that. When I first joined as an independent member, you were supportive. I very much enjoyed our visit to the Vale of Glamorgan. I thought I learnt from you. The thing that I will miss, I think, is when you use phrases like heightened sense of debate. Diplomacy at its finest. So I wish you good luck going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Graham. Thank you.
Chair, yeah, on behalf of Bridgend Council, I'd obviously like to thank you for the time you've served with us. I think it's been beneficial to all of us. I think you've been an excellent chair. You've kept us all on track, and you've, as Councillor Walter said, you've handled all the proceedings with diplomacy and tact. So thank you on behalf of Bridgend Council.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody, and cheerio. Bye now.